I know that you have spent a lot of your career, you know, coaching, training, building, helping organizations build successful sales leadership teams. And so I wanted to ask you what you felt was the biggest challenge that sales managers, sales leaders are going to be faced with after lockdown.
Wow, that's a $64 million question, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, what's the future going to look like? I think it's a really interesting question, and a question that we really need to ask. And I'll tell you why, is because so many people have been saying when things go back to normal, that's the terminology that they're using. And I'm not convinced that what was normal prior to lockdown is going to be normal when we all go back to work. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be some form of appreciation that things are going to change, that things are going to be different. And when things are going to be different, I think that what we've got is we've got a dilemma, because as human beings, we don't like change. We resist change. We prefer to keep with things that we know, the status quo, because we believe that that's how it all worked. That's how we got our success in the past. Mm. So subsequently, you look at the way in which we communicate. There was a time before telephones where we communicated face-to-face. It was the only way to communicate. We had no options. When telephones came in, there was that resistance to the change, basically saying that's not proper communication. The way in which to communicate is where you can shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and all of that kind of thing. Telephones has become normal. Speaking to somebody on the phone has become the accepted norm. So we've now moved into a situation where telephones isn't good enough for us in modern society. And now we have things like this with video conferences. And there was a reluctance when video conferences came in. I don't know if you are the same as me, but yeah, it was a real, do I have to go on the video conference?
Yeah.
Can't we just meet?
I felt like that at the beginning of lockdown. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But that's really interesting, Louisa, because at the beginning of lockdown, I think we all felt a bit reluctant to get on these things, but we did it because we had to. And now it's become the new norm, the new social norm. And we have, countless people doing quizzes and things like that via video conference. And actually, I think that what's happening is that we're becoming to quite like this form of communication because it's easy.
So with that then, what do you think, how do you think sales managers and sales leaders, how are they going to get their teams to not be reluctant? How are they going to get them to embrace the change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a lot of organizations will help them by forcing them down this path, because what organizations have realized is that the cost of travel is huge. And is it really necessary when actually throughout lockdown we've had no travel and we've been getting results? So can't we just do a bit more of that and cut costs? So I think organizations will probably be saying, well, don't go and meet somebody when you can video conference now. I think, and I think that there is that more confidence of using technology and using this form of communication, that there will be slightly less resistance. In addition to that, what I would also say is that our personal reluctance to do this when we're selling is because of trust. It's really difficult to build trust over this medium. We're sociable human beings, and as such, we tend to feel that if we can shake someone's hand, if we can touch, see them, if we can watch their body language and get all those subliminal messages coming in, we're more likely to trust people. And because trust is such an important part in the sales process, I think that the reluctance that we will have is in moving wholly over to a video conference. And I don't think maybe we should. And I think that maybe the video conference has a place, but it's probably not for the close of the deal. It's probably for the bits and pieces leading up to towards that. And then the close is the face-to-face meeting.
So if we say there's a scenario and there's a sales manager that, you know, the sales manager, sales leader is needing to enforce particular changes to adapt to either cost-cutting exercises or, you know, just ways that they need to do things now because of the environment that we're in, what advice have you got for these leaders in order to be able to make it happen as smoothly as possible?
Yeah, twofold really, because I think that I feel that the whole aspect of trust is the key thing. It's the most important thing. So we've been talking about trust between the salesperson and the customer, but there's equally trust between the manager and the salesperson. Whilst we've been in lockdown, there's been enforced trust, if I can put it that way. The manager has had to trust that the salesperson has been doing their job if they've not been furloughed. So subsequently, that needs to continue. That's the one thing that we need to take into the new world. But let's build on that. And as a sales manager, what I think that we need to focus on is how can we almost continue that trust and build even greater levels of trust and respect between sales manager and salesperson. There's that sense of autonomy that the salesperson has had whilst they've been in lockdown, because the sales manager has not physically been next to them, looking over their shoulder and whatnot. So subsequently, let's not revert back to that sense of the manager has to do everything, the manager has to know everything, the manager has to all of a sudden be looking over everybody's shoulder. But let's continue to allow people to develop and grow for themselves and use the manager as leverage to help them with that development. So
that's really interesting, actually, and that's actually almost kind of saying, let's take the good out of what we've experienced and carry on with that, rather than reverting back to how you were before. Let's look at the positive side and remain consistent with that. Give that an opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah, and build on it, make it even better.